Starting the webinar.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Borough.
We're just, everybody's just starting to join here.
Oh, okay.
All right, I think we're good.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the council meeting for the Borough of Crafton for Thursday, March 11th, 2021. Call to order. Moving forward to the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amendola? I see Fred. Mr. Chandler?
Here.
Here.
Okay. Mr. Kraus is absent. Or I'm sorry, Mr. Kraus? It's the second time I've done that. I apologize. Mr.
here.
Crown is absent. Mr. Lavasser?
Here.
Ms. Perry?
Clay, you're muted.
Okay, she's here. Mayor Bloom?
I'm here.
Solicitor Corbel?
I'm here.
Engineer Misterman?
Here.
And myself. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Moving forward to the consent agenda, we have the approval of the minutes for February 25th, 2021, and the bills list for March 11th, 2021.
So moved.
Second,
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments about the bills and the approval of the minutes?
none from me.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All that oppose? Hearing none that oppose, motion passes. Thank you. I'm going to move forward to the public comments on the agenda items. At this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue appearing on today's agenda. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Comments on non-agenda items will be taken at the end of tonight's meeting. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before the council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Please state your name and physical address for the record. Thank you. All right, Coletta.
So anyone who would like to speak, there is a raise your hand feature. And if you can click that, then I will call your name. So far, no one's raised their hands. Let's just give them another minute.
Yep.
I think we're good.
All right. With that, we'll move forward to the council resignation. And again, if you couldn't get in time for the public comment at the beginning, we can have public comment at the end of the meeting. So moving forward with the council resignation, we are in receipt of the resignation from Mr. Aylo. We have a motion here, a motion to accept.
Sorry.
That's right. Motion to accept Edward Aylo's resignation from Crafton Borough's Council effective March 11th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
I second it.
Okay, Brad. Yeah, you can be the official second. All right. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Hearing no questions or comments. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All that oppose? Hearing none that oppose, Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Aylo. We appreciate your service.
So, Philip, I do have someone who's raised their hand. I don't know if, a little bit of timing issue here.
Yeah, we can go ahead and take the question.
Very good. So, Alan Dorfield, I'm gonna allow you to speak. And you can unmute yourself and state your name and address, please.
Yeah, I'm on by error, so I have
Oh,
nothing to say.
okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Okay.
So what do we?
Okay.
All right, moving on.
All right. Thank you. We have interviews for Borough Council vacancy. These will be limited to 5 minutes. The first up is Mr. Vincent Rodilla.
And you should be able to unmute yourself, Vincent.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. All right, so good evening, Crafton Council. My name is Vince Rodilla, and I live at 75 McMunn Avenue here in Crafton. I would like to be considered to fill the open Borough Council position. I moved to Crafton 4 years ago, and I was initially attracted by the beautiful collection of old homes, tree-lined streets, and the easy access to downtown Pittsburgh. My fiance and I bought an old Victorian that was in desperate need of some TLC. And from the beginning, I realized Crafton is not your average neighborhood. Everyone has been so friendly, and there is a real sense of community that is not common in many neighborhoods. I originally grew up in New Jersey, but came to Pittsburgh to attend Duquesne University for my undergraduate degree. I majored in political science and international relations with a minor in Spanish. Government has always been a big interest to me, so when it came to choosing a major, poli-sci seemed like the obvious choice. Once I graduated in 2013 from Duquesne, I decided to further my education, and I enrolled at the Graduate School of Public and International Affairs at the University of Pittsburgh. While there, my focus was on public and nonprofit management. The biggest impact that this program had was teaching me how government should work and the economics of government budgets. While I attended Pitt, I also interned at the Pittsburgh Zoning Department downtown. This internship gave me amazing hands-on experience and helped me to understand the importance of planning and effective zoning strategies. After graduating from Pitt, I started my career at UPMC. I started as a contact center specialist in the call center, but I quickly worked my way up the ladder to different positions. At one point, I was a supervisor and I directly managed a team of 30 employees, but I'm now currently an implementation, optimization, and training, or IoT specialist. In this role, I help to onboard new practices into UPMC system and train the staff on the technical applications. My time at UPMC has helped to improve my skill set greatly, especially my leadership and project management skills. I want to be part of Crafton's Borough Council so I can help to keep Crafton a wonderful, vibrant, and welcoming community. I want to help preserve its historical character and the other great qualities that make it so unique from other communities in the area. I want to help it grow in areas that need improvement so further future generations can enjoy this community that we all love so much. I would work on behalf of every citizen to make sure that their concerns are heard and dealt with to the best of my ability. It is so important to be willing to listen and work with anyone, no matter their political affiliation. It is all too common for people to dismiss each other's ideas or thoughts because they have a D or R next to their name, especially now today in this political atmosphere. I will listen to and work with anybody as long as they are willing to do the same. At the end of the day, we're all part of Crafton and working to make it a better community. I would like to thank the council for their time.
Thank you, Mr. Rodilla.
So, Mr. Amendola, do you have, I believe you have your hand up?
Yes, I had a question for the president.
Yes.
So we're going through this process. I heard something very disturbing today, and I want to ask you straight up in front of all of council and the public here Did you make any comments to anyone about this decision already being made?
No. What do you?
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
Thank you. All right.
Next, we have Justin Marks. Just a moment. Let me see if I can find him on the list. Mr. Marks, you should be able to unmute yourself now and speak.
How's it going? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, Crafton Borough Council and Crafton Community. I'm here today to express my interest in the recent Borough Council vacancy. My wife and I purchased a home in Crafton in March of 2016 over on Promenade Street. And my children, George, 3 years old, and Edith, 1 year old, are both Crafton natives. My family has lived, my wife and I have lived in the greater Pittsburgh area our whole lives, and we've settled into this community as our home. As a homeowner, taxpayer, and parent, Crafton's future is of the utmost importance to me. Over the past 5 years, I've had the fortune of befriending many of our neighbors. I'm involved in our local Buy Nothing group and some volunteer efforts at Crafton Elementary School. If there's any parents hearing or reading this today, you may have heard about some of the dance party and Flappy Bird events we've done with some of the kids over the last 2 years. I've also helped organize some other educational coding events with the Boys and Girls Club of Southwestern PA and the local Big Brothers Big Sisters chapter. I am an information technology specialist by trade. I currently hold employment with Amazon Web Services as a technical account manager. Every day I work with multi-billion-dollar organizations, and my job is to steer them in the right direction to achieve their goals. I love solving complex problems, working with large groups of people to come to consensus, and taking a pragmatic approach to determining a way through any discussion. I used to work for the Software Engineering Institute, a federally funded research and development center at Carnegie Mellon University. I was a senior systems engineer and worked on classified and highly sensitive workloads while I was there. And before that, I worked at a nonprofit in Washington County called Blueprints, working my way up the organization from help desk to director level. Those 6.5 years at the nonprofit helped define my core values and help develop my passion for helping my community. I hold an associate's degree from Pittsburgh Technical College in Oakdale and a bachelor's degree from California University and a number of specialty IT certifications. I've also taken some graduate classes at Carnegie Mellon University, but I don't have a degree. I'm also a 2014 graduate of Leadership Washington County, a program that was focused on educating and motivating future community leaders. And that's it. I wanted to thank you all for the opportunity to be considered for this. No matter the outcome, I have confidence in the council's decision tonight, and I look forward to connecting with more of my neighbors in the upcoming election season.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Marks.
All right, and next we have Mr. Peter Linko. Just a moment here. So, Mr. Linko, you should be able to unmute yourself and speak.
Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to present before you today. As a little boy, my parents lived in Green Tree, and I remember my dad bringing me to Crafton every so often. And especially, I loved it when he brought me to my favorite place, Big Daddy's Donuts. And one thing that stuck out to me, even as a child, was the magic that this little borough had. And it was that same magic that led my wife and I to move to Crafton in 2019, and we've loved it ever since. I currently have an associate's degree in professional studies and will be finishing my bachelor's with a focus in business in May. My work experience includes 6 years with UPS, serving first as union chairman for the Health and Safety Committee for UPS in Cincinnati. My responsibilities included the safety of 100 union employees and implementing safe working practices and methods. Under my leadership, within a year, the committee took a UPS operation with high accident frequencies to the lowest accident frequency in the district. I currently serve as operations management at the Thornburg UPS right down the road. I'm responsible for the coordination of the on-time arrival and unloading of our fleet of over 100 package cars at the end of the day, so that we're ready to go out the next day and get your packages to the door. Logistics has given me the ability to develop my skills of leadership and flexibility in extremely high stress situations. I want to bring that same leadership to council. I also serve at my church as a trustee and as the finance committee chairman, and I'm responsible for the financial direction of the church, the allocation of funds to advance its mission, chairing our bi-monthly finance committee meetings. I want to bring that same financial experience to this council. I also consider myself a community activist of sorts. You may have actually heard of me last December. Point State Park and Duquesne Light had announced that the tree of lights at Point State Park was going to be taken away forever. 30-year tradition, gone. As I lay in bed that night, reading that article, I knew I had to do something. No one was actively fighting to save the tree. But what could I do? In fact, I was laying in bed with the coronavirus, and I could barely get up to the kitchen and walk. But I said, absolutely no way that this tree is going to go away. And that night, I started a petition to save the tree. Within 1 week, we had garnered over 10,000 signatures. Many of you that are watching at home even signed this petition. We gained the support of State Rep Dan Deasy, State Senator Wayne Fontana, and even Mayor Bill Peduto. In 1 week, we got Duquesne Light and Point State Park to reverse their decision to remove the tree. Today, this community faces new challenges that need community members to step up and lead and take charge and to make a real difference. I think of St. Philip's and the same passion that is building up to save the school. I love seeing that. It reminds me of what we just went through a few months ago, and I join the thousands of you out there that support that institution. And will state now, as I did with the Tree of Light, St. Philip's is not going anywhere. But that will only happen as we continue to stand together. I want to bring that same sense of community activism experience to this council. With my background in logistics, financial oversight, and the passion for my community as evidence in my community activism, I'm asking you humbly to consider me for this position. Thank you, council, and may God bless our wonderful borough.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Linko. All right. I wanted to note here, last week we heard from Mr. Thomas Phillips, Mr. Michael Zuhl, and Mr. John Albario and Miss Nancy Volker. So those are the slate of candidates that are before us. I wanted to say I really appreciate every single individual that came out and spoke to us. I think this is a watershed moment in Crafton to have this many people interested to fill a vacancy. And also, you know, from my understanding, there are numerous people actually running for office. So I think this is wonderful. So I really appreciate everybody having words before the community this evening and last 2 weeks ago. So I just want to continue to give everybody the encouragement to stay involved. There's numerous ways to be involved in Crafton, whether it be on the Recreation Board, the Planning Commission, the Shade Tree Commission, or any other number of community organizations. I think you all have really done a wonderful job stating how great of a community that we all share. So with that.
I'm sorry, I see Mr. Amendola, but one quick, Ms. Volker did contact me this afternoon. She has withdrawn her name for consideration. So just wanted to make that quick statement.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Amendola.
Yes, 2 weeks ago when we selected a council person, we started with the alphabet, beginning with A's. I would ask the president if you would start at the other end of the list.
Righty.
You know, start at the end and work your way back.
Mr. Corbel, what's your?
Sure, why not?
Sure. Alrighty. So just like we did 2 weeks ago, we'll go around the room and everybody will say a name, and whoever gets the most votes gets the seat. So pretty straightforward, everybody.
Well, wait a minute. It's not who gets the most. Someone has to at least get 4.
Or
Right. Four. Correct.
And also, to the extent that voting order is an issue, a lot of communities will just list the members of the governing body at the end of the agenda in a random order every meeting. So then there's somewhere to go. So something to consider in the future if it becomes an issue.
Okay. Alrighty. So, Mr. Sample, do you want to call names?
Okay, so we're going in reverse order here. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That would be Ms. Perry.
all right. I would like to first second what Mr. Lavasser said. I'm just so impressed with everyone who presented both last week and this week, and it's an extremely hard choice. And I want to encourage all of you to continue to stay involved and wish you all the best of luck for those of you who have put your hat in the ring for the upcoming election. I am going to choose Mr. Oliverio, and I want to make one point because we have, again, such qualified people. Mr. Oliverio has, if I recall correctly, he has had previous involvement and is currently serving on one of our boards. And I think that that's the tiniest bit of edge that has allowed me to pick Mr. Oliverio.
Okay, Mr. Lavasser,
Mr. Oliverio.
Mr. Crown, Mr. Kraus,
Sorry about
Kraus,
that. Yeah, I'm going to vote for Mr. Oliverio.
Mr. Chandler,
I'm going to vote for Mr. Oliverio.
and Mr. Amendola.
I'm off the hook, right?
Yes, there's a.
You have-
Yes, you are. Yes, you
You
are.
have the 4 votes, right?
That's right.
There's 4 votes.
And I will note that Mr. Amendola led the charge last 2 weeks ago with Mr. Oliverio. So,
But
this is a different vote. But
I just wanted to
But I'm
also
off
just
the hook. I don't have
You're-
to vote.
that's
right,
right.
You got
You're
4
off the,
votes, right?
you're off the hook.
Right.
That's right.
Yay.
You're good.
I just wanted to second some of the sentiments that Ms. Perry and Mr. Lavasser made as well. These are some really good candidates. So yeah, they were very impressive.
All right. Mr. Corbel, is there anything else that we need to do?
So we have to do the conforming resolution. And then once Mr. Oliverio completes the affidavit of residency, he could take the oath of office. So that's probably not this evening, just as Mr. Chandler completed that subsequent to the meeting. So with that, I would just move to the motion for resolution 2021-04, Mr.
All right. A motion to adopt resolution 2021-04, appointing Mr. John Albario, Crafton Borough Council, to fill the vacancy resulting from the resignation of Edward Aylo, which expires on December 31st, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right.
I'll give Colton the first second.
Thank you.
All right, any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All that oppose? Hearing none that oppose, motion passes. All right, next slide.
Just a second here. All right.
All right. Under my report, President's report, I have a motion to appoint council member Miss Coletta Perry as Vice President of Crafton Borough Council.
So moved.
Here a second.
Second.
All right, any questions? Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All that oppose? Hearing none that oppose, motion passes. Congratulations, Ms. Perry, our
Thank
new
you.
Vice President.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other items I'll comment during the engineers or solicitor's report. So I'm going to move forward to the mayor's report.
I'm going to withhold any comments until we get the discussion items. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, engineers report. You guys have been busy.
Pat. So a couple things as far as an update to the report that we submitted. There's two items that I want to add information to. One is that we submitted a CTIF grant online on February 11th. It's for the municipal public works building. The cost estimate for the project was about $940,000. That's for an additional 5,000 square foot building, as well as many site improvements. The maximum grant amount is $250,000. So just wanted to update you on that. And in addition, we had some news regarding Union Avenue, some good news. And it looks like that we heard from P&G, Natural People's Gas, obviously, and they are looking to replace a line down Union Avenue. So we're working with them. They need to figure out exactly where that line is. However, what that means is if they're going to be in one of the lanes, that they're going to have to replace a lane. And so that may change the amount of work, or at least the cost associated with fixing Union. So the only issue is usually with trying to work this out, it probably will push the actual work for Union into next year. Not sure we can get everything back from P&G, figure out where their line is, and negotiate a deal. Still could happen. But just putting that out there, that if for some reason P&G needs to slow things down, drags their feet, whatever, certainly something that we should wait for to, number one, from a practical standpoint, to get their gas line installed before we fix Union, and so they don't come in and tear up what we fix. And number two is to gain some funding from them as it relates to restoration of their work. So it just depends on where their line is and how much restoration there'll be. So just wanted to let you know that's good news as far as getting a funding source. We'll let you know how that goes. We're working on the restoration projects on the roads that have been proposed for this year. And like I said, this still may work out if we can get things together within the next 2 to 3 weeks with People's Gas. And everything else is as reported in the engineer's report. Thank you.
The mayor has his hand up.
Yes, I have a question for you, Rick. Are you talking Union Avenue between Steuben and the Ingram line?
Yes, the concrete area that we're talking about making repairs to.
Okay, so if the gas company is going to do one lane, dig one out, are we gonna dig ours out and replace the street in asphalt, or would you want to go back to concrete?
What we'll do is present all the options. Once we figure out how much we can have them fund, depending on where and what, then certainly we'll present some options. We'll see what their funding is, give you options for concrete, give you options for asphalt, and then as a group, you can make a decision how to proceed. The only caveat to that is we'll just have to see what we can get from Peoples, because they would be, we'll have to see what the ordinance requires for a patch, or depending on where their line is, what they're required to actually restore on a concrete street. So we're looking into that. That'll play a role in how much they would contribute to the restoration. But we'll figure all that out. We'll get all the numbers to you. And then as a group, you can see how much of the bond funding that you have that you want to spend on that street. So, but like I said, good news is we're getting some funding out of it to help subsidize that cost, as well as brand new gas line. And usually they run new laterals to the edge of the right of way. So just improved infrastructure all over on that road.
Super. May I ask a couple of questions? I was looking at the 2 Cycle 6 letters of intent of interest that we submitted, one for Broadhead and the busway and the other one for Crafton Park. I think we've touched on them a little bit at past meetings, but would you mind summarizing what those are for, please?
The Crafton Park is they're both the same. They're both GROW grants that, generally speaking, are separating or removing stormwater from your combined sewer system. So they'll get ranked and rated, and then funding will be allocated by the GROW project, by the GROW program. And compared to the amount of flow we've been able to get out of your combined system. And remember, this isn't a sewer separation. It's only removing stormwater from a combined system. So
Right.
your system is still serving as both stormwater and sanitary sewage. So there's no interruption to the residents as far as roof drains, driveway drains, even some of your inlets will still stay within that combined system. So these are optimized projects where we can collect either surface water or stormwater from the inlets, and then route that to a pure stormwater sewer line and discharge into a stream. So the projects are a variety of roads and that'll be reconstructed and replaced, as well as stormwater infrastructure to be installed and replaced as well.
Thank you, but I was looking for like what part of Broadhead busway, kind of just to give us an idea of where they are. And
Yeah,
part.
I don't have any of that. Like I don't have any of the mapping or the description. So
Yeah, I'll go into it. Like,
okay,
I dream about this stuff. So anyway, so Broadhead and the busway area. So it's going to actually start 3/4 of the way up Belvedere now. So we were able to work with engineers, and it's going to go loop all the way up Belvedere, all the way down Broadhead, all the way down Backbone to separate there, and there's going to be a point of discharge, over into the creek. So that's the Broadhead busway area, and so that whole top intersection out by St. Philip's, those inlets, and all the way down, and then when you're actually on Broadhead with Park, Coulter, Warren, all the way up those streets, there's going to be inlets all the way up until you meet, was it North Linwood? So that street is going to be sort of like the limits of disturbance there. And then actually when you go up North Emily to where we demoed or the house was part of the side yard program, that old house that was torn down to the side yard program. That's sort of like the upper extent, or it stops probably like 100 no, sorry, 50 yards short of that. But everything on that part of like North Emily, there's going to, all those drains, all that is going to be separated out. That's why it's called busway. So that whole area there is going to be taken out to allow for more capacity in that part of the.
And that's going to be, it's going to be a similar process to what we're doing with, large pipes and holding.
Full depth reconstruction, side to side. It's a pretty involved process, inlets, the whole 9 yards, sort of like what you saw in South Grandview as a model. And then in our engineering meetings, we've been talking about like different streets, like the top of Park. That's not part of the sewer separation, but that's going to be part of the road. That's part of the bond road reconstruction program.
Okay. And then the Crafton Park,
So
they do seem like they're separate projects, but really kind of tied together.
And that's not by mistake. So that was that C21, Rich?
Let's see, cycles.
No, the overflow.
Yeah, I know which one it's not in here.
I think it's 21 or one of them, but that one is in like Alcosan's targeted list because it has a lot of overflow. So
right,
for every gallon.
Remember, they actually, was it 18 months ago or so, they actually asked us to do something there, didn't they?
Yeah, the Crafton Boulevard,
right.
Crafton Park was what they presented to us. So that whole neighborhood in that area, on that side of the hill of Belvedere, down by the sled riding hill, that neighborhood over there, that's where there's going to be a bunch of separation. And that's not as far along as obviously the Belvedere and Broadhead, North Emily busway area. We have numerous plans in place, and we submitted the LOI, as you know, and we're looking for them to give us more green light, because the Crafton Park's gone through a bit of some iterations on how to tank the water. Is it just a withhold it until peak flow's gone by? But we actually have a horizontal bore that's going to go through underneath backbone there that will discharge to the creek. So that's actually, it's 100% like removal.
Okay. So these are grant applications, letters of interest that are due at the end of March. And then if I recall the process, Alcosan will look through all their letters of interest and they'll invite us either to make a grant application or not. So we're very early in this process.
Yeah, actually, the schedule is, like you said, the 31st. And then I think the applications, if you're invited to submit one, is June. They make a decision around October. So this is all work for 2022 and beyond.
And beyond.
Yeah. And I will say to the community, these projects that we've been working on, they're not foreign to Alcosan. They know that we're submitting for these. They've seen these in previous cycles. We've just been ranking the different projects, to sort of help them accommodate the different targets they have to meet the flow reduction. So these are, in the queue, and they're happy they get,
Okay.
we're submitting.
Thank you for taking the extra time to go into more detail on these.
Yep. All right. Rich, do you have anything else?
That was it. Thanks.
All righty. Where are we? All right. The solicitor's report.
Thanks, Mr. Lavasser. I don't have anything really to report this time around for public consumption, but would welcome Council Member Hope Chandler, and also future Council Member John Albario at the council. Look forward to working with you both. That's the end of my report.
All right. Thank you. All right. Manager's report.
Thank you. Just two things to report. The first, Crafton has been selected as a banner community for 2021. That's an honor we've had in the past, and we continue because of the leadership and what we've been able to do. So that's one. The second is PA American contacted the borough. The state is requiring them to update their shut-off termination agreements with the borough. So we're going to be having a motion at the 25th meeting to update that termination agreement with PA American. It's an administrative step with the state that they're requiring all their customers to do. So those are the only two things. If there's any questions from council.
So may I address? So this shut-off agreement, what is it shut-off of agreement?
It's for non-payment of water.
Okay, so then basically at the next meeting, we're going to be asked to approve an agreement that specifies how and when they can shut off water to individual residents for non-payment.
Yeah, the water and the sewage.
Water and sewage.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I have a question about this. I'm assuming that their guidance falls in line with PUC rules to prohibit shutoffs during winter months, correct?
They would follow the PUC. I will look at that specific, if there's any change from the verbiage from the current agreement to this updated one. I'll make a note of that.
Okay. All right, there's an item that's not on the discussion, but actually we're not even there yet. So, so Doug, you're good?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. So we'll move forward to the business agenda. Motion to direct the interim manager to advertise and hire the pool manager and staff for the 2021 pool season.
So moved.
You hear a second?
Second.
Any questions? So Doug, the process is going to be that you're going to get the applications in, you'll pick a pool manager, and the pool manager will hire the staff. Is that how it's going to run?
Affirmative, exactly.
All righty.
And I will keep council aware and abreast of who's applied and where we're at in the process. It's just to get this thing moving.
Yeah, we've had a lot of questions.
Yes.
All right.
Right, and also, if I recall, there, in the administrative office, I think there are like specific, timelines, forms, processes for this that you're following. Is that correct?
Correct.
Just wanted to make sure you found them.
Yeah, there's the background checks, the state checks, the working permits. There's a whole slew of paperwork that needs to be started getting this going.
Is there any thought or discussion about how hard it might be, but between the other managers you've been talking to about being able to hire a full complement?
The most of the talk has been surrounded about they've reduced staff in terms of cost saving measures. So right now there is not an issue with finding the number of lifeguards we will need. Staffing has not become an issue right now.
Okay, super.
So hopefully that continues. That's not been a topic that has come up or caused any of the municipalities any alarm.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Any other questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All that oppose? Hearing none that oppose, motion passes. Motion to direct the interim manager to advertise and hire the public works summer help.
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing no questions, all in favor? Oh, Mr. Amendola. you have the floor.
The question will be right after the vote. My question will be right after the vote.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yep. All right. So you don't. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All that oppose? Hearing none that oppose, motion passes. Mr. Amendola.
I just wanted to ask Mr. Sample where we are on the, we had an agreement to hire 2 new public works, and where is that in the process? Has it been advertised? What's happening?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Amendola. Mr. Killen and I will be interviewing 4 candidates next Tuesday, and then we will bring a recommendation to council to review the process and our recommendations for hire. So that would be, we're looking at a hiring date of the 25th, our next meeting. Provided background checks, everything is met, but we'll have an executive session just to review the personnel matters, but we'll have a recommendation to you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we're on to discussion items. Doug, I didn't ask you to put this on there, but I'm going to just bring it up. Typically, we've been doing like a March, April, May spring cleanup. I'd like to see if there's a will of council to do that again and instruct you to work with Public Works to coordinate something down at the park. In the past, we've had a few dumpsters, and Public Works has helped load materials in there. And I know a lot of people want to do some spring cleaning, and just want to see if there's nod of heads to allow the interim manager to work on that. So, all right. It's a short discussion item. 2021 pool rules and regulations, Mr. Sample.
Okay, in the OneDrive was the outline of what we're looking for our operations for this summer. I've been meeting with the managers of the other municipalities that pool up all over north, west, south. So this is kind of we're all in a similar policy. So this will be reflective in our neighboring pools, so as much as possible. So just starting off, our bather capacity is 500. Right now, the county is 75% of that for the green phase. So we're looking at a capacity of 375 bathers. So that's a number we want to, we cannot go above that. We'd look to open the pool June 12th and run it 7 days a week until August 22nd, and then we'd go just weekends until Labor Day. The same hours as we've had in past seasons. Residents will be able to buy the passes, and that would include the Carlington School District municipalities, Ingram and Thornburg, and non-resident passes would be recommended that we sell as well. General admission, when we had approved our fee resolution, we had included a flat fee of $10 for general admission per person. No age differences, it's a flat fee. So we would allow, or recommending that we would allow general admission Monday through Friday would be open. On the weekends, because we want to accommodate our pass holders. I mean, that is, our core audience. That general admission would only be sold to a family with pass holders. So if your cousin's in town or the friend wants to go to the pool, general admission would only be sold to pass holders, not a group that wants to come in, because we want, again, focus on our pass holders. And then general admission would be cut off if pool capacity reaches 80%. again, to focus on our pass holders. Our software company has a tracking mechanism now that will have live numbers to see, where we're at in terms of the capacity. Following all the guidelines, including wearing the mask when not in the pool. We would not be doing lounge chair rentals this year just because of the cleaning that would be required between uses. Concession stand would be open, but it would just be prepackaged foods, no cooking this year. Just, and sodas, bottled sodas and bottled water. And let's see, locker rooms. This is something we can talk about, but right now just limiting to bathrooms, no changing or showering. And that kind of is an overall summary. So if we want to talk about any of those, now would be the time to do so.
I believe you've probably had a number of conversations with the regional managers here that have pools. It sounds like these are regulations that they're adopting as well.
Correct. We all want to be as uniform as possible this year, just so there's no confusion.
Okay.
And that we're consistent with the residents of our municipalities.
Okay. Mr. Amendola, your hand's raised.
Yeah, Doug, would you repeat what you said about the bathhouse, about the, did you say no changing or no showers?
That is yes, that is what some of the other pool managers had done last year and are continuing it. They don't want to have the close interaction in the inside. Some municipalities are allowing the showering and the changing. So that would be, I do need guidance on that. How we've outlined it here, just allow for bathroom use, but that can be changed. It's basically a 50-50 on how municipalities are handling it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, these and these would be subject to change as well, right? So
most definitely.
I mean, and once you hire the pool manager, maybe you can revisit.
Very much so. Yes, this is just to get it going. Letting the public know that we're opening the pools. Here's a structure that we're looking at. It might change a little, but overall, this is how we're going to be running it for this season.
I ask a question. Mr. Sample, when you're talking about again, no changing, no showering. Do you have some ideas of, the additional costs, or is this mostly as just a precaution, or is it something that might anticipate being more expensive, say, to keep clean?
Correct. You're correct, Ms. Perry. That yes, there will be additional cleaning if we're operating the showers and the changing areas. Those would be cordoned off, and we just have the bathroom area basically that could be accessed just to reduce the amount of cleaning. So there would be additional man hours and product use.
Okay. And one other question, I go back to the no lawn chair rentals. Will we be allowing people to bring their own chairs in?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I mean, I think I feel pretty comfortable with these. They seem like a pretty nice middle ground. So, and I think to Doug's point, things will probably change as we go through the summer and new guidelines roll out. So I think this is a
good start.
A good start for sure.
Okay.
All right.
The next discussion item here, pool house renovations. I know that that was something that we had talked about with the relining last year. But what I think we're going to do is just some minimal improvements on the pool house this year. But what we are going to put in for is a DCNR grant of approximately $500,000, and it would be for a complete pool house renovation. That would be a 50-50 match, so the borough would be on the hook for $250,000 of the maximum $500,000, and we'll have a resolution approving the submittal of that at our next meeting. So that's and the pool house renovation came from the 2014 rec plan. So this is again a continuation of a plan that DCNR had funded. So that bodes well for the borough in the submission.
All right. All right, and then are you done with that subject? Anybody from council have any questions about that? Mr. Amendola?
You're muted, Mr. Amendola.
Sorry. We put money in the budget last year to do renovations over the winter at the pool. Was there anything done at all?
Very minimal work. And this year it'll just be making sure that, you know, we've got a proper plumbing that's working.
All right, do you have any other questions?
You're muted again. It's my understanding that there are a number of things. We put money in the budget for 2020, but that was done before COVID. That we had a lot of restrictions and issues to deal with our public works people. And I've also understand that materials were very difficult. And the opportunity for this grant came up in the last short period of time. So it's my understanding that the decision, because we can't do improvements and then apply for a grant to pay us back. So the decision was made to push it out a little bit longer so that we would have the opportunity to apply for the grant and be able to do much more with less. Do I have that just about right, Mr. Sample?
Outstanding, yes.
Yep. I mean,
Spot
Mr.
on.
Yeah. You know, the management team met with the folks from the rec board, and their wish list far exceeded what we had budgeted, and given all the labor and material issues that we were having, we were even lucky just to get the pool liner done on schedule. So applying the budget that we intended for 2020 and applying it towards this grant match is basically we're going to get twice the improvement with our funds. So I think it's a wise decision on part of the engineer and of Mr. Sample to bring this to our attention, and we thank DCNR for thinking of Crafton Borough on this item. All right, I'll move forward to the delinquent real estate taxes. Mr. Sample, do you want to?
Yeah, this had been a carryover from last year that has been hanging out there. So I just want to let you know that working with Jordan Tax just to get a list. I know this has been a topic of council. So just trying to get the numbers, just letting you know that we're starting this process in terms of seeing how much is delinquent, where the property's at, just more or less just a FYI
really,
for council.
And really, I don't think it's the intent of council to, I think we're looking at properties 3+ 4 or 5 years that are in the rears that may be vacant, that maybe need a little help, because the longer that we allow delinquent properties, vacant properties to go without attention, we end up with issues. This past weekend, an item came to our attention, the house on Bar. The rear end of the house literally fell off. If we don't address these vacant houses in a timely fashion, they become very expensive for us, the taxpayer. The last time that we got the bid on that last summer, it was 60 plus K. There was only one bidder. We went out to bid there. What was March 25th was the actual bid opening, I believe, Mr. Sample?
Yes, hold on one second just to confirm. Yes, it is the 25th because we'll award that night.
So we're running out of runway on that house. I mean, the good thing is we had this bid process all online, and but we really needed make sure that we're catching these vacant properties before they turn into blighted properties. And with our real estate market being as healthy as it is, there are people that want to make the investment in Crafton and turn these these buildings into homes. So obviously, I think it's the intent of of our community to work with people that are in the rears. But if the property's vacant, nobody's around, then it's best to push those properties to sheriff's cell or work with the school district to bring them to sheriff's cell so they get a new lease on life. All right, so we'll look forward to your additional reporting on the delinquent real estate taxes. Claude, did you?
Yeah, I did have a question. With I'm sharing screen, I don't seem to have the raise hand feature. So
yeah, yep.
Anyway, do we have some understanding of what Jordan's practice and effort is at collecting delinquent taxes? Because it seems to me when I look at this list, we have probably a percentage that is recoverable with outreach and persistence. We have a number that fit the category that Philip is talking about, where the homes have essentially been abandoned. And we also have, when we look at the numbers, the sheer amount of quote back taxes, a lot of that is on vacant property whose owners are dead. I mean, we see some stuff that goes back to the early 1900s. And I have asked off and on for my entire time on council, how do we get some of this stuff just off the list? Because it looks as though we have back taxes that just are not collectible. I mean, I don't know if those are pieces of property that fall into the category of putting up for sheriff's sale, or
Well, yeah, I mean, so one of the things I chatted with you about offline was we need to know where these properties are. So we pass the list over, then engineer, they're going to put it into the web portal. We'll have a map. All right. So we'll see which ones are, vacant, and we can do drive-bys to confirm. But to answer your question, simply, yeah, you push them to sheriff's cell seal to see if they sell, or the solicitor could talk about, quiet title actions, et cetera, to see if, if the borough wants to take it into its, take over the property, if it's just vacant land. But there's pros and cons to doing that. If you take the property, then you have a liability. So it's something to discuss. And I think we should probably have an executive session to talk about the pros and cons of what the strategies would be on the vacants.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Corbel, do you have anything to add to what I said?
No, not in particular, but I think whatever we're discussing in executive session is really about legal strategy more so than some of the nuts and bolts. You all have to talk about that in a public session, but I can certainly answer questions on the legal side of things, give opinions about particular properties, et cetera, about options.
Right. Is a quiet title action an action that the borough can take on vacant properties?
It depends on what the property is and the details. You could do that. I mean, you could take things by eminent domain as well. There's a lot of new tools in the toolbox that have come around in the last year or so for vacant properties, to bring them into compliance, to take them through a tax sale, to condemn and demolish them, etc. So the toolbox is being expanded. So I'm happy to sit down with everybody or get a list and come up with some options for you.
Yeah, and I believe LGA sent the Local Government Academy sent out an email about what some of those new tools are. So maybe we all should attend that seminar and learn more. Because I believe, was it 4 or 5 years ago, Coletta, when we first got on council, the blight initiative and land banking was a huge push in the county. And then as the economics of Allegheny has changed, some of these problems became less of a problem because the properties became desirable and less of a municipal burden.
Mhm.
So let's hope for.
So you were indicating earlier that we're gonna, first step is to put these properties into a map so that we can kind of visualize where they're at. And then can we ask the manager to maybe, before he makes any kind of presentation to council, just to maybe kind of prioritize some of them into kind of like a bucket? This one is literally falling down, so we're doing this by this date, whereas these ones fall into another kind of order, just so we have some kind of, because I think the bandwidth of 7 members debating a policy issue and then handing it down to be implemented, as Coletta says, it takes years to do. And we've still seen some of these properties, they're still out there. Now, to your point, I think, Phil, I think the Allegheny County is changing. I think, there's a couple properties that I thought that have been sitting on the market since 2016, which just sold. And I think that's a really positive sign. And when I travel around different places in Allegheny County, I see a lot of things that if they're not condemned, they're being flipped. So it would be, I think, something that we should consider to make sure that we're saving as much as we can and pushing a lot of these things off into the market so that they can be put back on the tax rolls at some point in time.
Yeah, and we actually have a fiduciary obligation under the law to do this. I mean, if everybody's not paying their taxes or there's less rateable properties, we all pay more to pay for the services that we need. So if we can preserve a property that's a rateable and get it back on the books, like 96 Noble, that we were considering tearing it down, but we pushed it to sheriff's sale and somebody got in there and is renovating and it's now on the tax rolls. I mean, that's a success story in our downtown.
That was a 20-year long.
Yeah.
Or longer.
Yep.
That it was on our community.
I had people tell me, because I was new, that it could never be done. So, it's nice to see it get done. I mean, I didn't know any different. I just knew it was there for 4 years I was here, but it's nice to see it done for sure.
Yeah. Been here for almost 27 years and it was bad when I moved here.
And so the public knows, and the council as a whole. I mean, Coletta and I actually had to sit on a bunch of calls with the banks about, what do our financials look like? And a lot of the questions the banks asked, or the bank asked and DCD asked, like, who are your major property owners? Are they current on their taxes? We have a responsibility to make sure that we have a good collection rate, because it funds our government and it funds our debt. And our services. So, I don't want people to think that we don't want to act with compassion here on some of these items. That's why we're willing, as Crafton Council, to work with people that are a couple of years behind. But if somebody's 10 years behind and there's no way for them to pay, or there's nobody to collect from, we have to use different strategies to make the community whole. So I think that's a good way to end that conversation, if everybody would agree, if I may move forward to community announcements and to public comment. The Borough Administrative Office is now open to the public. Administrative staff is available during normal business hours, 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. to address all borough business. Residents wishing to conduct business in person are asked to come to the door adjacent to the parking lot at the rear of the building. Please press the intercom/buzzer and the staff will assist you. No one will be granted access into the building without a proper mask. In addition, there is a drop box in the rear of the building for any written correspondence. Administrative staff can be reached by phone at 412-921-0752, extension 10. Non-emergency police matters can be directed to the police secretary at 412-921-2016. All right. At this time, we'll have public comment. At this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Comments on non-agenda items will be taken at the end of tonight's meeting. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before the council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Please state your name and physical address for the record. Please raise your hand if you're in the audience, and Claudia will promote you to speak.
I'm not seeing any hands raised.
All right.
Going once, going twice. Go on.
All right.
So,
Move to adjournment. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If you all could just stay on the line here, we'll just end the recording.